Had a unexpected personal matter come up about 2 hours ago. She will not be able to be here, so I'll be presiding at tonight's meeting. Announcement of notice. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the Highland Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting, setting forth the time, date, and location to be submitted for publication to the Home News Tribune and Star Ledger and posted on the board's website at least 45 hours in advance of this meeting. Members of the public who wish to address the board will be given the opportunity to do so before the board adjourns for the evening. In addition, there's some words that have to do, or some words that have to do with the public meeting, virtual public meetings. During this meeting, we ask that all members of the public mute themselves unless they are speaking during a public comment period. If needed, we may mute you ourselves. You may leave your video on or off at your option. If we experience bandwidth issues and believe that limiting video would help, we may do so. We will have at least 2 public comment periods. If at that time you wish to speak, please raise your blue virtual hand in Zoom and wait for me to call on you. If you cannot raise your virtual hand, or if I miss your virtual hand, please turn on your video camera and raise your actual hand. New Jersey law requires us to inform you that all commenters must behave appropriately. In Highland Park, that means no screaming, obscenities, or inappropriate video displays. In the event of a speaker's inappropriate behavior, they will be muted and we will come back to them at a later time. If the speaker is the final commenter at the last final comment period, we will invite them to return at our next meeting. Linda, could we have the roll call, please?
Ms. Cimarosti?
Here.
Ms. Coleman?
Here.
Ms. Gowan? Mr. Krieger?
Here.
Mr. Magaziner?
Here.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola?
Here.
Ms. Bruce?
Here.
Mr. Roslevich?
Here.
Mr. Woodward?
Here.
Linda, thank you. Linda and Scott, could we have the Pledge of Allegiance now?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So under communications, we have had 2 correspondents since the last meeting from Fiamma Aaron on the new middle school Wednesday schedule, on a new middle school Wednesday schedule, and from Jen Voorhees on the middle school curriculum and schedule concerns. So number 6, approval of minutes for the virtual regular public meeting of October 12th, 2020. So I'd like to move that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Linda, could we have Chris, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just, if there's an agenda change, don't you have to make it at the beginning?
I'm not going to make an agenda change this evening.
Okay.
I was thinking of making an agenda change, but I've decided not to.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you can make it at any time anyway, Chris.
Okay, no further discussion. I'll take the roll. Ms. Cimarosti?
Yes.
Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola,
Yes.
Ms. Bruce,
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich,
Yes.
Mr. Woodward.
Yes.
Thank you. So now it's time for our student representative reports. So Polly, Mariana, the floor is yours. You'd like to report to us? Hi, Polly.
Yes,
Go
hi.
right ahead.
Okay, so today we have a short report, but congratulations to the high school cross country team. The boys cross country team won the Central Jersey Group 1 sectional championship for the first time since 1968. Ben Godish became the first individual sectional champion in school history. And Angelo Botion, Liam Tilton, and Jason Lynn placed second, third, and fourth. And then also congratulations to the girls for finishing fourth overall, which was the best finish since 1996. The Red Cross, yes, congratulations. The Red Cross blood drive is tomorrow from 2:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Highland Park Reformed Church. The Red Cross thanks any and all volunteers. And then Madi will finish.
Okay, and now DECA is selling face masks for $6, and all of the profits are gonna go to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and the sale is gonna end Friday, November 20th, and all the masks will be delivered, and the payment will be collected on delivery day by DECA members and advisors. And then if you have any other questions, email Angela Harper from the Teen Center for any more information that you need. And the boys soccer team will be playing sectionals tomorrow against Piscataway Votech. Their previous game was Saturday. They won 7-0, I'm pretty sure, but I don't remember against what school. And then last, Bartle is having a Chipotle fundraiser tomorrow, November 17th. And come into the Chipotle at 524 Shops Boulevard in North Brunswick between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. A flyer was sent through Genesis, and if you bring the flyer, show it on your smartphone or tell the cashier you supported the cause, and 33% of the proceeds will be donated to Bardo School. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Question, Mark?
Yes, please.
I have a quick question for Polly. Polly, do you know if folks need to make an appointment ahead of time for the blood drive, or can they just go? You said what I think you said between 2:30 and 7:30?
Yeah, 2:30 to 7:30, and you do have to contact either Miss Young at the high school to schedule an appointment, or Victoria Lee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Miss Young or Miss Lee to make an appointment ahead of time.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. I have a couple of blood donors in the household who might be able to get over there.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Thank you, board. So I'm going to turn it over now to Dr. Taylor for his superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mark. I have the pleasure of having invited two members of our faculty, Mr. Lassiter and Ms. Young, who'll present tonight. So first, I'd like to have Mr. Lassiter come to the podium and share his accolades for the 8 students who we're recognizing tonight as outstanding representatives of the high school community. Mr. Lassiter.
So I was asked to choose a student for the superintendent's spotlight, and to be quite honest, it's really difficult to choose one student in remote learning for spotlighting. In fact, I was actually very fortunate. We had just finished selecting all our students of the month, and we usually have a breakfast and we do this great thing, but what we've done is still they're going to get their same traditional goodies of a mug with Highland Park High School on it, and a pen and some other things about that, and a little goodie bag that's available through Miss Peterson, who's now running Student of the Month. And so for the students that are here, this is my personal reminder to you, please come on by the high school. We have a nice goodie bag for you, and definitely want to congratulate you in person, albeit behind a mask. But I'm glad you're here tonight. And I noticed when I looked around the screen that at least 5 of the 8 are here, at least represented either in person or by a parent. And that's what we traditionally did with the Student of the Month. The faculty, the parents of these students would all get together and celebrate these students' wonderful character traits. It's not about being the brightest or the best student in regards to your grades. It's not about being the star athlete. These students are recognized because they bring to our school what OWLS is about. They bring their openness, they bring their wisdom, they bring their leadership, and they bring their spirit to now the airwaves of Zoom, at least in Highland Park High School. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce and read a little something about each student. The teachers actually vote on these students and then give me a short little description that I can share about them. So first up, we have a 9th grader, Lamar Albahri. Please correct me if I said that wrong, because I don't know our 9th graders as well as I know some of our upperclassmen. But now I got a good thumbs up, so I appreciate that I could say that right. So Lamar has been an example of enthusiasm and spirit. Even while she dealt with a challenging technical issue, as many of our students have, she is always ready for class and always contributing in positive ways. Ms. Wilson echoes this 1,000%. Lamar is kind, caring, and open. She shares her curiosity and enthusiasm with the class. And Mr. LaFauci chimed in that Lamar is a wonderful kid. She always comes to class with a good attitude, is an active participant in class as well. So thank you so much. Kudos to you, Lamar. We also have Kai Stevens, our other freshman that we want to honor as a Student of the Month. Kai is curious about the world and passionate about learning. For every assignment, he goes above and beyond. He researches statistics to defend his answers in debates and also tries to be considerate of other people's point of view. Kai, I just want to say personally, that's a wonderful trait in this day and age. So always keep that spirit alive and listen to others' point of view. Kudos, Kai. Our 10th grade students for tonight are sophomores. Sad that this young gentleman is not in the house. Anthony Adeniji, and I'm going to read about Anthony even in his absence because the first sentence will let you know that he had already kind of taken definitely a lot of my attention last year, not in a terrible way, but Anthony has shown so much growth and maturity as a student from last year to this year. We always love to see that. Anthony is an active participant in class, completes his assignments on time, leads small group discussions, and asks questions when he does not understand. He is respectful in class to both his peers and teachers, and they just say that they worked with Anthony during the summer in the academic support program. He was kind, considerate, added a lot of interest to our meetings, and they're so happy to have been able to nominate him. And there were 2 or 3 other teachers that all chimed in, very proud of Anthony and his growth from last year. So kudos to Anthony. We also have Alexa Greenberg, and I do think that Alexa is represented tonight. Alexa is a tireless student, even in this remote learning environment. She is not shy about asking questions in class or via email. She is one to communicate with the teacher consistently and always ask questions. She is curious and very hardworking. If all students work as hard as she does, there would be nothing one could not accomplish. So we want to really spotlight Alexa for her work ethic and the fact that she always tries the best. Teachers are very lucky to have the chance and opportunity to teach her. So kudos to you, Alexa. Moving on to our juniors. And this next student is someone that actually is new to our school. And I have to say, I've popped in a few classes. Each class I've popped in that she's been in, inevitably she is leading the conversation or chiming in with answers as a new student. And not only just a new student, but a new student who's also still learning English, which is incredibly impressive. So Maria Nieve Cisnado. Maria is exceptional. Although she is new to the school and learning the language, she pushes herself to be a leader in the classroom. She asks questions when she does not understand something, both inside and outside of class. She helps organize group members. She participates often, shares her voice in a way that makes the entire class just better. So she was nominated by a whole slew of teachers, and we're really, really proud of her. She even joined the robotics team in her first year here and is participating actively. So keep it up, Maria. We're just amazed at the impression you've made on our teachers in our school. Our next junior is also, was actually an EOL student in our school, John Karakanas. But he's tested out of the program. He dedicated himself to learning so much and grown so much over the years. He has become an active member of all the classes he's in, a strong writer. The entire 11th grade team of teachers, actually, when they met, all supported his nomination and gave him a golden owl earlier in the month for all the successes he's shown. So we just want to echo that with a student of the month. Good job, John. And our seniors, I know at least one of them's in the house. This first one I'm not sure is here, but Mohrael Sadek Soliman. She's grown in maturity and responsibility. She has improved her Spanish. By the way, she's also Arabic speaking, so she's trilingual, and is confident to take risks in class, speaking and answering questions. She's taking care of her little brothers now, but she is doing her best to succeed in all she does. She was also recognized earlier in this year as a golden owl, where in art class she stayed and volunteered to translate for an Arabic student, so that that student could get more involved and know what was going on in the class. She went way above and beyond to help make sure the student knew what was going on, even staying on well into the breaks to support that. Thank you, Barbara. And last but definitely not least, Ben Hartwick. And I definitely saw that he was here, actually represented with some parents as well. He is taking on AP Chemistry this year, and Ms. Steffen just wanted to say that he's been an asset to the students while in the breakout rooms. He's a leader. He sets the tone for the discussions, and his group is always productive no matter which group he works with, because Ben takes the charge. Another asset that Ben brings to our class is helping to direct all of us how to figure out the tech issues. So he's really quite helpful right now. We were trying to figure out why the AP Classroom lockdown browser was not working. He helped us all to figure it out. Third thing is that Ben brings to our
Hi,
class.
Sil, it's Janie.
I'm sorry. He's also able to unmute himself and speak to the class what the answer is, and would start the chat conversations for the topics we're discussing. He just is a true chemist for AP Chemistry. Keep it up, Ben.
Mr. Lassiter, thank you for being here. You have indoctrinated the OWL acronym in my head. You're like the biggest cheerleader of that acronym, that mantra.
It's
So,
our mission, and the kids actually make it come true, so it's easy.
I thank you for that. I thank you for all the students who were here. You're the bright light tonight for us. In a very difficult time, it's awesome to know we have 8 superstar students like you guys, just helping us, being there for us. So thank you. Parents, guardians, students who are here, you're welcome to leave. You can do so more diplomatically online than you could if you had to walk out of a physical room. So feel free to go ahead and do so without any embarrassment. Bye, Lamar, and everybody. Good seeing you. Those of you who want to stay are welcome to. I want to shift gears and introduce a very special member of our faculty. It's her 2nd year with us. Feels like it's been 10 years. I wish it was 10 years because we could have benefited from Tara Young's expertise, her passion, her commitment for a decade. Tara Young, you can unmute yourself and wave, Tara, so we all know where you are, who you are.
Hey, everybody.
Tara is a guidance counselor at Bartle. She's a superintendent / principal's counseling dream. She's focuses on therapy. She focuses on counseling. She's into the whole child mantra to the T. She's also somebody who's going to tell you in just a minute, has a rich background in social justice. And that's why I selected her to be the inaugural advisor of diversity and inclusion. For those in the community not familiar with that role, it's newly created. It's something that germinated in the Equity and Excellence Committee, of which Monique Coleman and Rob Magaziner at the time were part. And then the board took up the cause and thankfully were supportive of us funding this position. It's a stipended position. The individual is tasked to be my left and right arm in the effort to foster equity. And so she's already hit the ground running. I thought she'd take a few minutes to introduce herself so you know who she is and have her tell you a little bit about what she's been up to. So Tara, why don't you take the mic?
Sure. Thank you, Scott. So like Scott said, I'm Tara Young. I'm the school counselor at Bartle. My background, while I was getting my degree in counseling educational settings at Rowan University, I worked in their social justice office as the coordinator for LGBTQIA and inclusion programs. I know it's a long acronym, but it's very inclusive. Because it's in the Office of Social Justice, I did a lot of cross work with programming, supporting mentoring, women and gender, interfaith, and multicultural. So passionate for that. And it's also just part of a counselor's duty, according to the ASCA guidelines, to be a student advocate, and that's what our role is to remove barriers. And I see all that history and, professional drive coming together and being really assistive in the role of the advisor for diversity and inclusion. So kind of the first steps that we've been working on, since, we are in the middle of a crisis and a pandemic. So we know that right now data is a little skewed, but the first step that Scott and I are looking at is we're looking at where we're at with our goal 2 for the district. So I'm happy to say that I've met with all the principals and everyone has something implemented. Everything that has been set out has been started. Now the next step is we'll be looking at the efficacy of those goals and how we're implementing it and how much further we need to go. Another thing we're looking at is expanding those goals. Obviously, like I said, right now with the crisis, the equity and access shifts to making sure that we're meeting all the educational needs and the immediate needs versus big long-term systematic breakdown. But one of the things we're looking at immediately is the accessibility to AP and honors classes, making sure we can let everyone have access to it and removing the barriers to increase that enrollment. So I'm better at answering questions sometimes than just guessing what everyone wants to hear from me. So I'm open to any questions or feedback anybody might have.
Board members?
I'll just add that I'm thrilled to hear that one of the things that you're focusing on is the access and barriers to AP and honors. It's something that the board's been working towards for years, and it seems like every time we make a little bit of progress, it's a pandemic breaks out or something. So
Right.
and we've been working on that, from the transition from Bartle to middle school, from middle school to high school. So the fact that you'll be working with all the principals across the board on those issues just makes my heart happy. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
And we have some fantastic experts, at our disposal. If you ever need someone, just let us know.
I'm going to hold people to that.
Yeah, hit me up. Scott knows.
Yep.
Chris?
Yeah, so maybe you said this, but could you just say a little bit more how students are involved, how their voice is expressed in the process of?
Sure. So So there's not an official formative process, but one of the things that I've talked to Scott about in the proposal of is actually doing student surveys. Now, it's not the students' most favorite thing to do, but it is one of the most direct ways to get the feedback from their point of view. The other thing that there's been student forums, like I sat in with one with Scott, and like we're opening opportunities. So we have to be better at doing different avenues. And like I said, student engagement right now is just an extra challenge to what already existed. You know, it's always hard to get kids, you know, students involved and engaged in their own education and promoting that self-advocacy. Now, right now with everything that's going on, it's not a drive for them necessarily. So it's a long-term conversation to have. So we're going to continue to look at the best practices, but we can also take a look at what's working and what can be better.
I do want to add, Chris, that there's overlap between, as there usually is, curriculum work and the work that Equity and Excellence is doing. One example of that overlap is an effort led by Michelle Rodriguez, our humanities supervisor, to work with Dr. Lacey Hunter, African Studies out in Rutgers, Newark, to hold listening sessions with students. Tara is going to partner with Dr. Hunter and Michelle, so she is in those sessions as well, so that they're all working together.
Tara, I just wanted to say it's a pleasure to meet you and to have you working on this for the district. It's really fantastic. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I have to tell you, one of the things I'm really encouraged about and even wanting to apply for this position is the fact that it exists, and knowing that we have board background and that we can really get to the goals that we want to, knowing that this is a collaborative process and a lot of people are behind it. It's very encouraging. And I think it's something that we should recognize that not every district has, and it's kind of something unique to Highland Park. And I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
And I have to echo what I said earlier. I mean it sincerely when I give my thanks to the board for for coming up with the idea. Came out of Equity and Excellence, that committee, and then supporting it. I'm pretty blessed in that respect. So yeah, you're right, Tara. It's not every board that is as supportive of this effort. So, and I'm a big fan of Tara's. I want her to rest up. I'm going to send her home, send her out. Well, send her back to her wherever home is. What part of your room there? And thank you. Yeah.
Scott, before you do, sorry, it's Monique. I just wanted to chime in before you leave, Tara, and just thank you, like everyone else here. You did join our Equity and Excellence Committee meeting this past Thursday. So we did have you with us for a full hour discussing what you're working on and the initiatives and plans going forward. So we're really excited about it. But I do want to add to this point that's being made about the importance of us even having this position. And what I really appreciate and value about what you bring to this position is that you're not just filling a position, right? Checking a box, because there are a lot of institutions at this point that are creating these positions, diversity and inclusion type positions, whether it's in educational institutions or other community institutions, corporations. And I often wonder, well, how much of that work really is truly going to address the deep-seated kind of systemic equity issues. And so, what are the people who are filling these positions really bringing to the table in terms of background and experience? And clearly you're filling this position, you're bringing to it of true mindset around understanding kind of the connections between diversity and inclusion. That's one thing, but then looking at the systemic part and the equity issues and social justice. So I really like that you're merging all of that and you have the background in it. So, I really am happy about that. And at the committee level in Equity and Excellence, we talked about, we're not going to rush to fill this position just to say we have it, but we want to really make sure we're doing it in a way that we're filling it with someone and who has this commitment to the kind of deep work that we need to be doing here. As Darcy said, that's been going on for quite a long time in many areas. And now it's to the point where, we're really at the point where we want to see the kind of change that we've been talking about, right? And really have the students have the opportunity to experience it, right? So yeah, we really look forward to the work that you're doing and that you have the support, of the board, and I'm sure many of the staff and faculty and administrators in the district. So yes, thank you very much, and look forward to having you meet with the Equity and Excellence Committee periodically with updates and hear about the progress so that we can, again, continue to support the work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Monique.
You're
All
welcome.
right, you all have a great night.
Good
Have a good night, Tara.
Yeah.
Before I close my report, I just want to say a few words about what is a very topical issue, especially topical on this Monday. And that's the closing of schools around us, and as a result of the second wave of the pandemic and the increasing rates of infections in our area. As some of you are aware, over the weekend, South Brunswick and Piscataway announced it was going to suspend in-person school till January. Some other districts are doing the same outside the county. Right now, I am still committed to keeping our elementary students in person. As the board and the community knows, I'm due to make a decision about the return of middle and high school students in a week, next week, for December 7th. So I'm trying to provide a 2-week window of preparation time between when I make an announcement and when we're due to come back. Obviously, the increased local rates of infections, as well as the state rates, are having me think very carefully about next week's decision. So look, I have 7 days. I'll be obviously deep diving into data, speaking with officials. Just today, as a matter of fact, I spoke with 2 epidemiologists with whom I work periodically for continued advice. I'll add that the 2 infectious disease specialists did support my effort right now to keep the younger kids in the buildings. Of course, that could change on a day's notice. I also want to add that there are reasons why I have decided to look past the what was the initial standard that we set in the reentry plan that would have me determine openings and closings of schools, and which is 21 cases over 7 days. Back in late October, I proposed a change to the reentry plan to the central leadership team that took effect November 2nd. The latest version of the reentry plans on the website indicated that any surge of infections in Highland Park that would amount to 3 cases a day for 1 week on average could lead, not will lead, but could lead to the delay of the return to in-person school and or district closure. So I suggested a change of the term will to could, because in late October, we'd been 2 to 3 weeks, 2 weeks into the return of our kids at Irving and Bartle, and we're seeing a lot of success. The health protection protocols we've had in place now 5 weeks. This is actually our 5th week of having our Irving and Bartle kids in person. Appear to be effective. In that we have not had a wide swath of positive cases. In fact, I've only had 2 positive cases associated with Irving and Bartle reported to me since the return of our kids in mid-October. Both cases did not detrimentally impact our programs. In fact, only 5 students had to be quarantined relative to the number that I'm talking about, which is like about 200 kids total at Irving and Bartle. That's a pretty small number. And fortunately, those 5 students were not reported to have been infected. This was 3 weeks ago. So if there was any infection as a result of that close contact, we would have known by now, likely. So, so a combination of what I have traced to be strong health protection protocols in place, the fact that we have not been, as a school district community, directly detrimentally impacted by local rates or state rates, and also acknowledgement, now that I have my hands on the data, on more detailed information about the data, acknowledgement that in the last week, the local infection rates have been sourced from clusters in families, mostly, not all, but mostly in families, significant others, spouses, siblings, thus indicating to me that the local infection rate is somewhat localized. Hovering over all of my detailed thoughts and analysis about the situation in the last 5 weeks is the recognition of how happy our kids and adults are. I've been in the buildings every day, in the classrooms every day, and things appear to be going very well. Kids are happy, excited. I got a wonderful email from a parent today whose child returned for what's going to be our start of our 4-day in-person schedule at Irving. Our numbers in the classes are small enough that we can do that. And just presented just in that email how excited her child was to be in school. And our teachers are very happy as well. So, I'm seeing even more so than I conceptualized the mental health benefits of having our kids in person. Now, that doesn't mean that things can change daily. I'm not wedded to decisions about whether we keep our kids in person or not, or whether we open schools or not on a weekly schedule. I look at this pandemic as a daily changing matter, and I'll continue to look at that. Last thing I want to point out before I hand the mic back to you, Mark, is I will be calling in a meeting, calling an emergency meeting or a short, quick announced meeting of the central leadership team. That's a representative group of teachers, members of the board, members of the leadership team for this week to talk about that standard, that 21 over 7-day infection rate standard, and make sure it's something that we feel we should still use as a guide, and if not, what we may want to reconsider to be the proper standard. So I have 3 groups with which I've been working for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 months. I've got 2 stakeholder groups, and I've got the central leadership team. The stakeholder groups, made up of parents as well as members of our personnel, have been providing me a lot of consult, input, ideas. It's the central leadership team that's been working with me intimately to help me make decisions. That's why I've been referring to the central leadership team when making some minor changes to the reentry plan. So I just want to put that out there. I'm sure there's some folks in the room here who are concerned about the rising rates, how that's impacting us. I'm sharing with you what my position is right now on the matter. I'm always, to a fault, keeping our adults and our kids' health first and foremost in my decision making. So I'm not making any of my decisions lightly at all. With that, Mark, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, thank you. I also want to add that the board has been meeting with Dr. Taylor. Ann and I spent close to 2 hours today going over that specific topic, and the health and welfare of our students and staff is foremost in our mind. So we are trying to look at the standard and see how that standard might be changed based on what we know now that we didn't know 6 months ago. Monique, did you have a comment?
I did. Thank you, Scott, for that detailed description of where things stand now and the possible changes. I would just say that your approach is not to a fault. Keeping the health and safety of the adults and children in the building the priority is not a fault. That's a quality that we value here and that we should be guided by. So thank you for that. And 2, I think my question is, when you mentioned that little wording change of what could possibly lead to us closing of the schools, and can we qualify that? I would like to hear what would qualify that gray area a bit more. You spoke to it a little bit in terms of looking at the local nature of the cases, but I think having a more concrete sense of, filling out that gray area would be helpful for me and possibly others.
Of the 3 things I shared, I'll point out that 2 speak to what you just asked. 1, when I look at the rates, I reach out to the borough officials who contact me about their rates. I'm in daily contact with borough officials because they get all that information from the county health department first. They also get very detailed information. They get addresses, They don't get demographic information necessarily, but they get addresses, locations. I'm seeing nuances in the data that I didn't consider when back in August and September, we first looked at that 21 over 7 days standard. One of those nuances is the reality that these cases are not always widespread. They could be localized, rooted in families. For the last couple of days, every time I would get I actually get a text and then I get an email. Every time I would get a text from a borough official about the latest report, there'd be a caveat or a little additional information stating to husband and wife, or two siblings, family. So that's one of the variables that's influencing me when I reconsider the 21 standard. And then the other matter is how the local rates may or may not be impacting my district community directly. Since so there have been 4 total positive cases brought to my attention since late August. 2 happen to be adults in the upper grades. They're not back yet, so there was no reason for me to have to make changes to schedules. Did inform the community about those 2 cases. 2 cases down here at the lower grades, a teacher and a student. As I pointed out earlier, in both those cases, a very, very small portion of our population, 5 kids total, were impacted. They had to be quarantined. And those kids were fortunately still safe. We're still safe. They weren't infected. So that matters to me. It matters to me how our district is being impacted by the local rates. You know, I have to tell you, in the last month and a half, the superintendents in the county, I'm the president of the County Superintendents Association, so I'm always in contact with my colleagues, are always reaching out to me for advice, sharing information. We talked more and more over the last month and a half as we were bringing more of our kids back about the standards that we were using to close school or to reopen. And what I was finding is that we were one of the few districts, maybe, I don't know, maybe one of the only of which I'm aware in the county, that had such a hard, fast, concrete standard. The other districts, for the most part, have been just assessing how things are impacting their district. So for instance, Piscataway and South Brunswick closed when they pointed out in the media that they had a number of cases in their district community, positive cases, that alarmed them enough to compel them to close. Same thing in East Brunswick. I mean, East Brunswick waited and waited and waited until the numbers just got to be too much. We, on the other hand, like I said just a few minutes ago, have not been impacted like those other districts. So that's also been what's influencing me. Actually, it's part of what led me to propose to the central leadership team back in late October that we change that terminology to may instead of will.
Could I add to that, since we met earlier, Monique, to give you some more specific, and I know Chris talked earlier with me about specifics. The issue really comes down to, I'm going to call it the federal and state level. When the governor doesn't take action or takes very weak action about indoor gatherings and masks and doesn't set standards, and doesn't set standards certainly for schools, which some federal incoming officials have said they'd like to do after January 20th. We're faced with a situation that we cannot build a wall around Highland Park. And so what that means is we might say, just for argument's sake, I'm not, this is conjecture, that number 3 may be a very good number for high school and middle school students. In other words, numbers at 3 or above per day maybe possibly be numbers we want to keep for whether or not to reopen middle and high school. And again, just for argument's sake, but for the younger children, because of different reactions to the disease, we might want to increase that number. So keep the school open, not to change people's lives, not to make them miserable by closing the schools. The problem for us is that wall around Highland Park. We may get inundated with this second wave, which is what's happening everywhere. So we have to move quickly. That's why we've been meeting almost every day. As the numbers come out, I have charts going back to March. You know, many of us do. And you look at those charts and you say, where is it going to go tomorrow? I mean, today there was 0 new cases reported for Highland Park. How long can that go on? And if we are inundated, it's clear we are going to go remote reasonably quickly because we have to. If we aren't, if Murphy would do something and change something, and it's, you know, and taking out of the equation Thanksgiving coming, which may make things much worse, given some of the surveys that have been made of the populace. We may be, if he makes changes, we might be in a situation where we can make it through this and keep things going for a while and maybe longer. But I think it's problematic. It's very difficult, and we can set those numbers, but they may be very hard.
Murphy did change the guidance today to no more than 10 for an indoor gathering.
I know.
The question is, do people follow it, right? I mean, that's the problem with any situation, with bringing kids back to school, with, you know, whatever. If
yeah, and
I think another really critical piece, Scott, is that you've, I think, been firmly committed to complete and utter transparency. You know, we know our teachers have reported, I think one of the big concerns were, are little kids going to wear their masks? Turns out the answer is yes. Turns out little kids will wear their masks, right? We know all our teachers are wearing their masks. So we know the kids are doing a good job with their masks. We know we've put all the precautions in place as we possibly can. And we know you're going to be 100% transparent with any cases. So that in and of itself makes me feel, you know, remarkably better about the whole situation. That I know that if we start seeing, you know, cases in Highland Park, you'll shut it down because, you know, you don't want to see anyone get sick.
right.
That concludes my report, Mark.
Anyone else on the board? Comments, questions?
I just wanted to say that it looks like everyone is starting to take this more seriously, just because there are now governors who are calling for a mask mandate and enacting one. So fingers crossed that, you know, things get better and everyone starts to take care of one another. But so far, so good in Highland Park. It looks like we're doing pretty well.
Yep. Scott, number C on your report is the CUSAC district performance report. Should I just move that, or do you have some comments about it? We've talked about it before.
Yeah, I'll just make say a word or two. So this is every 3-year process that districts in the state engage in with the DOE as part of their monitoring process. I shared that worksheet. You may have reviewed. I placed in the folder on the Google Drive with 4 other individuals. So that's a compilation of our report from Keith Presti, Aislinn Stadowski, one of our teachers, Christina Nicosia, one of our curriculum people. So that's what that is, and it's something which we do every 3 years. If you have any questions, please ask. But otherwise, yeah, Mark, I would actually ask that you move that, please.
Yeah, I'll move that, and then after a second, we could have a discussion and then the vote. So I move that the Board of Education accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve submission of the CUSAC District Performance Report to the New Jersey Department of Education. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Just that CUSAC is the one acronym in New Jersey education policy that I can never, for the life of me, remember.
Continuum something or other.
Yeah,
I can't
exactly.
remember it either. I was dreading that somebody would ask me what it
is.
means.
I know what a nightmare it is, but I can never remember quality, don't know, but.
Okay, so Linda, could we have a roll call?
Ms. Simorowski?
Yes.
Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden Nicola?
Yes.
Ms. Bruce?
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich?
Yes.
Mr. Woodward?
Yes.
Mr. Woodward?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's a quiet yes.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, so we're on to board committees, reports, and recommendations. So A is curriculum and instruction. Michelle, unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. I am going to read through the agenda and just try and keep it as short as possible because I unfortunately was not able to attend the meeting. So if I miss anything, please, someone who was there, please jump in and let me know. That would be great. So I'm sorry, this whole thing of switching.
And Michelle, I'll just say
Right.
we did read through I did at least in the last meeting, read through the meeting highlights. So that part is covered.
Okay, very good. So I'll just really quickly buzz through these. Item number 1 is approval of field trip requests as per usual. Item number 2 is the approval of the memorandum of agreement for the high school day of dialogue. This program will give high school students the opportunity to attend a county virtual day of dialogue to create a powerful student-centered forum focused on race, class, and gender at the high school at a cost of $1,350 as per the attached to the agenda. Number 3 is approval of the Mandarin 3 curriculum revisions for 2020 and 2021 school years. And number 4 is approval of K-12 English LA Language Arts and Social Studies curriculum for 2020-2021 school year as well. And that concludes the curriculum agenda.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to go over the finance agenda, most of which we did last time. So there were items 4 through 8, which are new bill list, treasurer report, secretary report, certification, and budget transfers. Those are the usuals. Under item number 10, we have two new contractors for professional services, advancing opportunities, and one which is a pass-through to a non-public school for one Lisa Fink to do tutoring teacher. So those are new. And again, the one for the non-public school is not something we pay for. It's something we simply need to approve. And then I did check with Linda and Scott, item 16, as are numbers 13, 14, and 15, is an old settlement agreement. So this is just renewing that settlement agreement. And then there's one new item, which is the related services for out-of-district placement for one student to get an aid at the daily rate of $184.40 effective November 2nd, 2020. The Finance Committee, by the way, did meet. We went over, as we typically do during the year, the state of our budget and our expenditures up to this point. And the news is relatively good as opposed to most years because so many things, how do I say it, aren't needed when so much of the schools are remote. I did a little back of the envelope the other day in terms of contact hours for students throughout the district. We're down to a number that's like 5% because it's only Irving and Bartle for part of the week, for part of the day, where students are coming in. So when you have a situation like that, budgets for things like substitutes or buses or whatever are much reduced. So going forward, we will probably be in reasonably good financial shape. And that's including all of the computers that all of the students now have, all of the internet services we've acquired, all of the equipment, the plastic table dividers, the masks, the thermometers, all of the items we bought with CARES and FEMA money to protect our students and staff. So the news is in that, we needed a pandemic, we didn't need the pandemic. We needed like a hole in the head, but with the pandemic, we've certainly had some savings. So I'm going to go on now. Any comments or questions from anyone? Then I'd like to go on to personnel and communications, and with Ann not here, oh, Darcy, sorry. Question?
That's okay, just real quick. I just wanted to tell, I just wanted to tell Monique something actually. Monique had asked a couple of meetings ago about some of these pass-through items. And I haven't done it yet, but I promise you, I will get with my Education Law Center people and I will get some details on that. And maybe next month
yeah.
or something, I'll report out on that to everyone because, you know, I would not be adverse to, you know, making a little noise about that. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Darcy.
Yeah, I haven't forgotten.
Better than me. Thank you.
So with Ann not here this evening, Chris very happily, thankfully volunteered to present the personnel and communications agenda or items for voting. So Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. There are a few new items beyond what we discussed last week. Number 15 is the approval of an SEL program school counselor. Those are listed in the table following that. 16 is the bilingual parent advisory committee. So there are a small number of hours for various people. And 17 is the home instructor for teacher Cassandra Serrano, and 18 is the professional development for the family webinars. Okay, those are the new items.
Any questions, board? Okay. If no questions, I'm going to go on to you, Darcy, on policy.
Sure. So policy met before our last meeting, not in between our last meeting and this one. But I did work with Scott and Susan to make some of the corrections that needed to be made. There were still some transcribing, I'll call them, errors on the policies on the agenda for last week. So those have all been remedied. And Scott and I are going to meet, I think, one day next week to kind of go over some ideas for how we may be able to work through the current batch of backlogged policies and try to just get ourselves to the point where all we have to do is keep up on policy updates as they come in. So hopefully for next month, we'll have some new policies for everybody to review. But everything here is the same as from last week.
Great, thank you. Any questions, comments from the board?
I just have one. Yeah, the policy on poverty and high need schools, does that actually apply to us? Or do we fall into those categories at all?
It doesn't,
Okay.
but we still need the policy.
But we need to have the policy.
Correct.
Okay.
Just in case.
And Scott just texted me to remind me that we're actually meeting tomorrow. So, so my weeks have gotten away from me. Time is just kind of collapsing in the time-space continuum. So.
Right, thank you. Monique, equity and excellence. Unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah. So yes, as I mentioned earlier, when Tara Young was here, we did meet this past Thursday, and essentially the entire hour was spent with her discussing her work that she shared earlier during our board meeting. I really don't have anything to add to what Tara presented, other than we did talk a little bit about, which I think Scott even mentioned, the fact that she's going to be sitting in on and in participating in the listening sessions that are already planned with Michelle Rodriguez and Dr. Lacey Hunter. So the overlap between their roles is really important, that we're going to see that. And, you know, again, we're just going to continue to support Tara, especially in the work around opening up access to honors and AP, which is one of the first priorities. One thing she did touch on during our meeting that didn't quite get covered here is another area of focus for her is supporting the staff in ongoing PD around culturally responsive planning, teaching, and assessment. So she really is just in the beginning stages of seeing where things are right now around these initiatives with each administrator, and then determining sort of what work they need to, what goals they need to expand and where they need to possibly boost some of their work. So again, I don't have a whole lot to add. Rob, if you feel like I'm missing something that we discussed that's important, please chime in, but really that was our meeting.
No, that was it.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah, okay, great.
I do want to add that Tara and I are meeting every other week, and one way that we're following her progress is to have her keep an action plan chart, Google Doc that'll be updated live so we can chart exactly her progress.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Scott, because we did actually address, we talked about the issue of obviously monitoring the progress and just being able to have some barometer, some way to measure how things are going with the work that she's doing. And again, where more support may be needed or where goals can be checked off and further goals can be developed. So thank you for just investing that additional time and meeting with her regularly.
No problem.
And that is it for Equity and Excellence.
I have to unmute myself. My phone was ringing. I muted myself. Anyone else? Any questions, comments? All right, Michelle, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Monique about the regular kinds of contact that you'll be having with Tara. If we could also make sure that, anything having to do with curriculum gets communicated, because it seems to me like her position is going to have lots of different people to deal with because of so much crossover, which is great. So if you could, of course you're on curriculum, so you would remember that, but just, if she wants to come and visit, that would be wonderful.
And maybe I'm glad you brought that up, Michelle. Maybe what we can do, because I know we've done this in the past with other, some of the curriculum supervisors that have spoke or addressed our meetings, either or committee meetings, we can sort of overlap the time or make the time sort of back to back, right? So she can join us at the end of a curriculum committee meeting and segue right into equity and excellence. I mean, that's a possibility.
Sure.
Idea. Yeah.
Especially looking at what the agenda is in advance, we'll know what we're talking about and we can have that natural integration in both committees.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. But I love the synergy, and it's so important to have that, just making sure all of these areas, we're not working in isolation, everything it truly is connected. So, and Tara gets that. So that's.
Yeah, and I'm so glad, because to me, it seems like that really sends a strong message to everyone involved. That this is a team effort and this is going to benefit everyone. And this is not, for example, specifically the, transgender students. This is for everyone's benefit, and it's important for everyone to be in contact. It sends a strong message.
Yeah, and one thing I will just add, now that we're saying this, I do want to mention that one part of Tara's background that she didn't mention earlier is that she also served as a Disability Resources Center coordinator, an academic success coordinator at Rowan. So she also brings to the table just looking at the disability inclusion and access as well, and equity, which for our students, disabled students. So I think that's really important as well, that we, can start to spend a little bit more time and effort in making sure that
she's a perfect fit.
Yeah. The needs of that population are also being truly addressed. So we're happy to see that in her background as well.
I gotta say one more thing about her counseling skill set. Man, she is a friggin' rock star as a counselor. I'm gonna tell you, kids love her. She loves the kids. She's a counselor's counselor. She's great. My gratuitous plug for Tara Young.
Thank you. We're on to public comment now. So the Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Board policies 164 and 167 establish and regulate the right of the public to participate in public meetings. So I heard, I saw Dan Maladnik's hand up. Dan, do you want to unmute yourself and take the floor, please?
I didn't know I had my hand up. I'm sorry.
No, he has his
I applauded.
Oh, you applauded. That's an applause. Well, thank you for the applause.
I was applauded by Stevens. Sorry.
Okay, well, please put your hands up, and if you have public comment, and remember to give your name and address. Okay, Rob Scott, please.
Just a minute here. Hello, my name is Rob Scott. I live at 25 South 2nd Avenue in Highland Park, and I have a few questions and comments. So first, I wanted to address the change in the word from will to could in the district reentry plan. I think that it's really important when changes like that happen that we be notified, that the community be notified, and they don't just quietly happen on the documents and nobody sees them. I think that portion of the plan, the fact that there is some kind of process or some kind of criteria that are being used and announcing those to the public is a very positive thing. That's a positive thing in terms of transparency and can generate confidence in the decisions that happen. The reality is it's a very abbreviated section. There's not much to it. It would be great for that section to be more expanded with a greater number of things that could be looked at to judge risk. I understand, I think, the motivation, which is to provide some wiggle room so that there was not an immediate closure of the primary in-person instruction, which people are very committed to. And so I get that, but I think we really need a fuller description of the process, of all the criteria, and some clear understanding of where the epidemiology advice is coming from. So just the central leadership team, sounds a little bureaucratic, and it's not exactly clear to all of us in the public exactly what is going on, especially when changes like that are not announced. I hope that the lesson that we are taking from the so far no outbreaks in the schools, in person, in the primary schools is not this, which is, gee, we used a conservative criteria. We didn't open when things were risky. Now we've had 5 weeks when things were less risky, and we haven't had an outbreak in the schools. That's good. And these are little kids who are compliant about wearing their masks, and the numbers of students in the building were less than we expected. Given all that's true, I hope we then don't draw the lesson of, gee, Middlesex County is experiencing exponential growth in new cases right now. The trend is going straight up, right? And therefore, because we were cautious when we opened the primary schools, a completely different population of students, it's now okay to be less cautious and reopen high school and middle school, which has always, based on everything we know, represented a larger risk to teachers and to the community at large. So I hope that we're very, very, very cautious and careful about this December 7th opening. I have a couple other questions with respect to the plans for the December 7th opening. So one, I know the survey closed on Friday for parents or students opting into remote or in person. And I guess I was surprised there was no report on what those numbers were. So what percentage of students have opted remote or in person? And the other is that the FAQ on the district, the frequently asked questions on the district website, still does not give a very rich detail on exactly what in-person and remote hybrid instruction are going to look like. So for instance, there's reference to, well, if there's a monitor available, students who are remote will be on a monitor. So how many monitors, big enough in the classrooms, does the district have? And it's a little unclear how the plan, as detailed in the frequently asked questions on the website, is not just everyone's getting on Zoom, except they're doing it in the building in a mask. So those are my comments and questions. Thank you.
Rob, thank you very much. I appreciate your very well thought out opening statement, which I would say many of us on the board are thinking in similar fashion. Scott, perhaps you could work on the other parts of this, especially the monitors and the survey, not this moment, but over the next day or so, and get some feedback to all of us. Sure. Both the surveys and the FAQ.
Will do.
Jen Voorhees, could you please unmute yourself?
Hi, everyone. Jen Voorhees, 300 Donaldson Street. I just had a quick question about the FAQ document that had mentioned we'd find out something about the new Wednesday schedule at the middle school by today, but we didn't get any emails from Miss Brady about that. So I'm wondering if there's an update on that schedule and if it will go into effect this week still, or if we're going to be waiting on that. Thank you.
Mark, would you like me to answer that question right away?
Yeah, if you can, you should.
Yeah. Wednesday night's Honeywell, Jen. We'll give you all the details then. I'm still in the process of informing faculty of potential changes that are going to be made. So Wednesday night's Honeywell. And Mark, I may be able to get back to the board about the percentages if you give me another minute of students who've selected to come in person.
Oh, if you can do that now, that would be excellent.
Yeah.
For all of us, for the board and the public.
Yeah, I can do that momentarily.
Okay, well, let's take some other questions then. Just raise your hand, or I'm looking. Let's see. Okay, and I see no other hands. Oh, Matt Hirsch.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Not to take up oxygen in this meeting, but since there was nobody raising their hands, I was going to report out on the Bartle PTO.
Name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Matthew Hirsch. I live at 333 Felton Avenue here in the borough. For Bartle parents on November 17th, that's tomorrow, between 4 and 8 p.m. If you order from the Chipotle in the shops at North Brunswick, a portion goes to fundraise for the Bartle PTO. Order pickup online or show the flyer on your phone to the cashier. We prefer that you order online. And you can also order through their app. Just please consider contributing to Operation Snowflake to provide much needed items for Bartle school children and their siblings. You can bring your donations on December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Unwrapped gifts and gift cards are welcome. PayPal donations to PTO is also welcome. And you can find the PayPal link on the Bartle PTO's new website. Thank you to Francine Drachman at Bartle, who's one of many teachers who are very, very much involved in the Bartle PTO. You can also find all this information on the Bartle School PTO Facebook page, Facebook group, I'm sorry. And if you just search Bartle School PTO, you can find it there. And that's it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Matt. The website, could you give us the URL?
Well, unfortunately,
it's easier to search.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is yet to the URL has yet to be shortened, so it's one of those sites.google.com/
Got it.
schools.net.
Okay.
It's best if you go to the Facebook page. But thank you.
Okay,
Mark.
that's fair.
Appreciate you asking.
All right, thank you. Thanks so much.
Mark, 32% of middle school students have opted to come back in person. We're looking at the high school data. Right now, it shows 38% students have opted to come back for in-person, but that number isn't entirely accurate. It may go up or down a percentage point. We're still picking through the data and identifying duplicates. In some cases, families may have submitted the response twice.
Okay.
But I think it's safe to say we're looking at between 32 to 38% in person.
Thank you very much. Deborah Lancaster.
Sorry, I couldn't find myself. Deborah Lancaster, 109 Donaldson Street. Couldn't find myself on the Zoom screen. So I just had a quick question. Thank you, Dr. Taylor and Monique, also for your clarifying question around the criteria. I found that really helpful. And the language change, is interesting and seems to make sense, especially given there's so much ambiguity around what we know. So anything that can give the district some reasonable flexibility in making decisions seems to make sense to me. I was just curious, I wasn't going to ask this question, I wasn't going to say anything at all. I was just curious, Dr. Taylor, when we do surveys like this, when the district, like the return to school survey, I'm just curious what the response rate is. I'm curious about the high school in particular, what kind of uptake you get from parents who respond to something like that.
Well, initial responses have been what you'd expect, you know, if there, maybe I would just ballpark say like 25, 30% respondency rates, but then our secretary spent a significant amount of time making phone calls to every home that we identify hasn't chimed in. So ultimately we get as close to we can get to 100% respondency, because we need to, look, we need to be able to trace every student's program preference so we can provide a schedule appropriately. So we have to make sure we have close to 100%.
Yeah, that was just, that's helpful. I was just curious if there was follow-up, because if I just was wondering how that was handled. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anyone else? Andrea Alexander.
Hey, I think I'm unmuted. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Yep.
So I have to apologize. I basically got a text from my friend that you guys were discussing cases at Irving, and I missed the entire conversation. So I am so sorry, and I wish I had heard it, but I guess I just want to make sure you guys hear from a parent of an Irving child about how important it is to keep the schools open, and just for the kids who are there, just the change I've seen in my daughter since she's been back in school. She's so much happier. She's so much more engaged. She's so much more engaged from learning, and I just hope that those are the kind of parameters that are going to guide decision making going forward. I know we're in an incredibly difficult situation. I just want to make sure that sort of what's best for the kids is always at the forefront. I know Philadelphia just shut down the city but kept the elementary schools open. Michigan shut down the state but kept the elementary schools open. It's it's possible to do it, and I don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. None of us do, but I'm just hoping that just going forward we keep remembering that around the country places are shutting down but keeping the elementary schools open because it's so valuable for these kids. Like I tried to do the asynchronous learning with my daughter, and it's so difficult. It's difficult to get her to listen to me. It's difficult to get her to focus at home. I know when she's in school she's learning. I know when she has a question her teacher knows how to answer it. I know that her teacher knows how to engage her. And I think the most valuable thing for these little kids is to be with their teachers who know how to teach them. And I'm just hoping that in all the decision making that we can try to keep that relationship going in person as long as it's possible and a reasonable thing to do. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Can I have your address, please?
I'm so sorry. Andrea Alexander, 116 North 3rd Avenue.
I missed that. Andrea, I wanted to thank you for your comment. The board and Dr. Taylor have really done everything we could to get the school open and to try to keep it open. And and we did it and didn't open the higher grades because of the results, which we talked about ad infinitum in South Korea and Israel. People on the board heard me say this 20 times. Israel, South Korea, Singapore, they opened all the schools. Everyone got sick. They closed all the schools. We really tried to do it thoughtfully. The criteria came out of some meetings we were in, which I first proposed, that we make some criteria. And I think there were mistakes there, like making it hard and fast made it difficult. Mm-hmm. But so while the change wasn't sent to everyone, in fact, most of the board didn't know about the change, but the fact is it was a good change. And it was well received because we could keep the lower grades open. So we really want to do it if we can. But again, as I said before, it's so bad out there right now around the country and even in the county and even in the state. It's hard to build a wall around our town. And it may get to a point where we do have to close. We're meeting, as I said, 3, 4, 5 times a week. I'm trying to decide how we can do it, and we're not getting outside help. The state isn't helping us. Board of Health aren't helping us. We have to make these decisions, and hopefully we'll continue to do, as I think, as well as we have. And again, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
So anyone else? Okay, so you will have another chance for public comment. I'm going to move on then to the action items. The board votes on the resolutions. So curriculum and instruction. Michelle, if you could move your curriculum and instruction items, and then we could vote on those.
Okay. Okay, so I would like to move items number 1 through 4 on the curriculum and instruction agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Who was the second?
There was Rob Roslowitz.
Thank you.
And any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, Linda, could we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Simorowski,
Yes.
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Krieger,
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner,
Yes.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola,
Yes.
Ms. Bruce,
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich,
Yes.
Mr. Woodward.
Yes.
Okay, on to finance and facilities. I'm going to move items 1 through 17. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rob. Any discussion? Okay, Linda, could we have a roll call?
Ms. Simorowski,
Yes.
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Krieger,
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner,
Yes.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola,
Yes.
Ms. Bruce,
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich,
Yes.
Mr. Woodward.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So personnel, Chris, could you move those items?
Yes, I'd like to move items 1 through 18.
Do we have a second?
Second?
And discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, Linda, can we have a roll call?
Ms. Simorowski,
Yes.
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Krieger,
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner,
Abstain from 6 and yes to the rest.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola,
Yes.
Ms. Bruce,
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich,
Yes.
Mr. Woodward.
Yes.
Okay, Darcy, on to policy. Darcy, could you move those items?
I would love to. How exciting. The first time I get to move things as I've never been a chair of a committee. How weird is that? Anyway, yes, I would like to move items 1 and 2 for the policy and regulations agenda.
And I'm going to second those. Any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, Linda, could we take a roll call, please?
Ms. Simorowski,
Yes.
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Krieger,
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner,
Yes.
Ms. McFadden DiNicola,
Yes.
Ms. Bruce,
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich,
Yes.
Mr. Woodward.
Yes.
Okay, so I think the next item on the agenda are the liaison reports.
Well,
You have to also just at least acknowledge.
Oh,
every
I'm
next
sorry.
one.
No, I'm getting your report.
I know we usually don't have anything to move.
Well, you don't have any items to move, so
I know.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't miss the report side of it.
I didn't know if you really did have to though.
No, I don't.
Because there's nothing there. So
There's nothing
okay.
to move.
Got it.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Board liaison reports. I think last time at the last meeting, we asked if anyone had a board liaison report. So, Scott, do any of the district folks have anything?
The only report that I can offer is of the library board. I attended their meeting on October 26th.
Great.
And the only thing that the board there discussed was the reopening of the library, which it appears that they've successfully done on a limited basis. So the entire meeting was about logistics, which it was very helpful for me to be there because I was able to offer some of what the district has done, and I think they took the opportunity to have me share some of our experiences and put them in place there.
Right,
That's it.
by appointment only. Chris, you have your hand up?
Oh, I was just going to say that the Commission for Universal Access, is that where we're at the?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was able to attend a half an hour of their meeting last week. And we did discuss, one thing I realized I was a little bit confused about is the status of various special needs programs, whether they're in person or all remote. And in particular, the GLOW program, I guess, is now all remote at the moment. I was wondering if Scott could just quickly run over our different programs and say what the status of each of them is.
The status of each of those programs?
Well, GLOW in particular, but any other.
GLOW in particular, and any of those other programs.
Yes.
Which,
so right now, both, well, in terms of in-person remote status,
yeah,
the therapeutic support program, which is our small self-contained program for students we usually send out of district for behavioral challenges, is all remote. That was because the 3 parent guardians of those kids wanted them to stay home.
And that's at Bartle, right, Scott?
Correct. That's based at Bartle. We have several self-contained programs in operation 5 days a week. That includes Wednesday, by the way. We do bring a few classes in, even on Wednesday. Both Irving and Bartle are what we call our ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis program, down at Irving. And then our LLD self-contained program up at Bartle. At the middle and high school, if we do return December 7th, both GLOW programs will be remote only. All the middle school students chose at the middle school to learn from home. 60% of the high school GLOW students chose to learn from home as well. Plus we had staffing issues, so we had to have that program work remotely.
Okay, thank you. Chris, anything else? Okay. Do Rob R and Rob M, do either of you have meetings like Board of Health or HPEF? Anything going on?
The HPEF meeting that had been scheduled for last week is actually going to be tomorrow night. So.
Oh, okay. And Board of Health?
I was unfortunately unable to attend the meeting on Thursday, and I'm still waiting for an update from the Board of Health as to what they discussed.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other board members who've attended? Darcy?
Well, I didn't attend yet, but on November 21st, Saturday, November 21st is the New Jersey School Boards Association Delegate Assembly that is meeting completely remotely. And I've signed myself up for that because I'm a glutton for punishment. And there is one resolution that's going to be discussed, and it's by far probably one of the weirdest ones I've ever seen in all my years of participating in the Delegate Assembly. It's New Jersey School Board Associations is suggesting that we approve this language. Why it's needed, I can't wait to hear what spurred the need for this policy or for this language in the New Jersey School Board Association policy manual. But what they're suggesting that delegates approve is that a board member with a term of office extending beyond the next election should resign the seat currently held before submitting a nominating petition to become a candidate for a board seat different than the seat currently held. So that would be if my term is not over for 2 years, I decide to run next year instead, but I didn't let go. So why someone would do that, I can't figure out, but apparently someone in Lodi has tried this to try to run for another seat while still in a seat. and the rest of their board didn't like it. So we'll see.
Okay, that's pretty weird.
It is, right? I think it's very, very strange.
Very strange.
I cannot wait to hear the backstory on that.
Right? There's got to be a good backstory.
I was going to say the story is more interesting than the actual.
Right. I mean, like, why we need to defend against this, right? Like, who would want to run more than they have to? But I don't know. So there's something interesting there. But that's the only resolution, and
Nice.
I will go and listen intently and report back if there's anything of interest. But
Maybe someone wants to have 2 or 3 seats at once.
it's so
Very
weird.
weird.
It's just very, or it's going to be, 2022 is going to be a bad year for me to run. I'm going to run for 2021 anyway. No, I don't know. So.
Okay, well, barring any other liaison reports, we're on to President's report. And Anne had put committee assignments here, but given the abrupt nature of her not being able to be here this evening, she did not fill me in on this, so I'm not aware of any discussion she wanted to have. So we'll have to.
Mark?
Yes.
Scott, I don't know if you want to fill him in, but I think this is basically to memorialize what's already in place. Just to announce the committee member, the representatives that were not officially announced before.
Oh.
I think Marilyn has been assigned to a committee and Darcy has been assigned to a committee, and they were never really announced. Normally this happens at reorganization time.
I see.
So
So this is simply an announcement. Well, so to announce it, Darcy, you're on the Finance Committee. Yes, that has.
That I'm chairing policy.
Oh, the chair of policy. Okay,
Right.
so Darcy is chairing policy. We don't have to move on this, right?
No, it's just I need to put it in the minutes.
I see. And Marilyn, I apologize. I'm not even sure what committee you're on. So there you go.
Yeah, I can announce myself. I'm on personnel and on excellence and equity.
Excellent. Okay. So let's memorialize those. And anyone else have any changes? I think otherwise, and finance has now gotten so interesting that we have other members this week, Chris, and previously Anne, have been coming, and it's really great to have other people coming to the Finance Committee to see.
Not at the same time though, because that would be a quorum.
That's right. There's only four, not a quorum. But how exciting and interesting those meetings are.
Yes, there is great demand.
There is.
Yeah, I tried to get in. I tried to get in, Mark, and I couldn't. So
you have to call me well in advance.
Got a quorum.
Okay. So old business. Does anyone have old business? Chris?
Oh no, just on the.
We lost you.
Would it be possible to update the webpage? I think that information has now gotten quite outdated.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Thank you for that point.
Very true. And you might look at any other things on the board pages that are out of date. There's certainly some terms on there that are, year terms that may be still wrong.
I think we updated those recently.
Okay. All right.
Good there, I believe.
Okay.
But
I'll check.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right. And good. Thank you, Chris. Any old business? Any new business?
Yes. I wanted to ask if any of the board members or if Dr. Taylor has any information about the downtown redevelopment plan that I'm seeing a lot of talk about online, and I'm very concerned about the consequences that this redevelopment plan might have on our town, but more specifically our schools, of course. So that is my question. I guess that's new business, but they are having a meeting Wednesday this week, a public meeting to discuss it. And I didn't know if there were going to be any representatives from the board.
I thought it was tomorrow, Michelle.
Yeah,
it's tomorrow.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's
And
tomorrow.
I know I do plan on attending. It's tomorrow at 7.
Okay, thank you.
Personally,
But I don't think that this is a board issue. I think we certainly could or should be attending as members of the public ourselves. As far as a board issue, given the enrollments, I mean, there might be an issue with enrollments, but our enrollments have been consistent and steady and maybe even going down slightly. So a handful or more than a handful of new students would not likely be a problem for us. But I don't think it's so much a Board of Education issue, Michelle. At least that's my own opinion.
Well, it kind of does depend on the size of and the scope of some of the projects that are ultimately, if they actually, look, this is Highland Park, so anything that we're talking about now is likely to possibly happen by the 22nd century. But I know folks are saying that we're on a fast track, but things don't happen quickly here. But if large apartment complexes are built, it is possible we'll have some additional students.
Yes.
And that was part of my concern, because I did hear about something, a 3-story high-rise apartments near the Denison Street neighborhood. So I hadn't heard of that before. And as a board member, I became quite alarmed that I had not heard of any of this. It did seem to me that it came out of literally nowhere. So
there have been meetings on this apparently for quite a long time.
Yes.
So it's not. Oh, Rob, please.
Yeah, I attended the last 3 public meetings. They're not actually 3-story, they're actually closer to 5-story. And they talked about the potential number of units, parking, and a number of different issues. Again, this has been in the planning since 2003, and many of this, and it's been changed multiple times. But I would also say that at this point, there's no place else in Highland Park to develop. So we're really down to the Main Street where we have potential for redevelopment. And so some of these actually do have some more potential than they did back in 2003 when the first redevelopment plan that I was part of was actually proposed. So I can throw some of that information your way, but I attended not as a board member or anything else. I attended just as someone who's very close to the first development, and then the way they're planning the first and second development actually ties into the third one. So I attended all 3 of the meetings just to voice my opinion on them.
I would ask that Rob, if you continue to go, I'd be very, very interested, as Rob and Michelle both said, on the demographic side of it. How many apartments are they thinking of building in the different places? That would be very useful for us to know, because we do have a very good idea based on other developments in town and how many students we've gotten. A very, very good idea of how many new students we're likely to bring in. But that being said, the demographer, the professional demographer, when they looked at Cleveland Avenue and River Road and the Kaplan properties, talked about us being up to 2,100 students by now, and we're still at 1,600. So maybe I'm being foolish, but I think we're not likely to be inundated, especially since the apartments, from what I saw, the apartments were not likely to bring in families with 2 or 3 children. I think they were targeted to people biking around town or going and taking a train, and not family oriented. But I don't know.
Still makes sense for us to pay attention to it.
We should.
And,
we absolutely should.
So, Michelle, thank you.
Michelle, thank you. I agree. I just want to divide in a sense that this isn't a board issue as much as concerned people, and I'm concerned on the demographics. So thank you for bringing it up.
Well,
Michelle, and I'll find my notes and send them to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Monique?
I was just going to say that I would imagine that was what you were thinking about anyway when you raised the issue, Michelle. Just
yes.
Impact in the numbers.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. I mean, along with other things that will affect the way that the town, I guess the town architecture, the way that the town functions, traffic and whatnot, but also I do have a lot of concern after learning so much about our history with redlining and other, racially charge decisions concerning city planning, how this would affect our students' neighborhoods, because it does affect lots of different things related to schooling and their school experience. So thank you all for lighting up with information and interest, and I hope we all work it out and keep attention on it.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you very much.
I would hope that it's not going to be anything big enough that will qualify for any kind of tax credit. That would be the other board concerned, right?
Any other new business? Okay, so we're on to our second public comment. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Board policies 164 and 167 establish and regulate the right of the public to participate in public meetings. Please again, raise your hand and give your first and last name, first name and address. Okay, I'm going to give it another few seconds. Okay, seeing no public comment, I will move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. The meeting is adjourned.
Good night.
Good night,
You all.
everybody.
Take care.
Take care, people.